Hello and welcome back to Venus's Green Spot. I'm Venus. I'm so thankful and glad to have you here with me today. We are going to be talking about the Taurus New Moon that happens on April 27th, 2025. And this one will be soft. It's going to be steady, and for some of us will feel deeply sacred. Now, before we talk about the specifics of the Taurus New Moon, I do want to take a little bit of time just to talk about Venus because she is the ruler of this lunation. So her movement then tells us something a little deeper about the emotional and energetic tone that we're working with. Now, Venus stationed direct on April 12th. And since then, she's been hanging out here behind Saturn, just sort of trailing behind him through Pisces. Now, Saturn is going to pull ahead of the North Node. Venus will still be back here with behind the North Node, and then she will pull forward and they'll meet at 27 degrees of Pisces. So this is around the 25th of April. Venus then is finally going to catch up and form this conjunction with Saturn. Now, this is going to be like a sobering love moment for some of us. For some of us, it's going to feel like some grounded creativity. For others of us, it could also be about choosing our values or something that is shown to be valuable to us based on the fact that it's something that lasts, right? Now, it's going to feel a little bit like a reality check, right? In terms of what it is that you're building. And that could be building financially, emotionally, or relationally. It doesn't matter. But if those things that you're building are aligned with your soul, then it's meant to stick. That's sort of what this transit is telling us. Now, just a few days later, around the 30th, Venus is going to move into Aries, and she'll immediately conjoin Neptune. So this is also going to feel like, especially after that sort of sobering time that we've had with Saturn, Venus moving into Aries and meeting up with Neptune is going to feel a little bit like stepping into a dream, right? A dream that wants to become something real. Now, it's in Aries, so it's going to require you to have some courage, some clarity, and some self-awareness in order to make that dream tangible. But it's also a good time to remember that because we've had Venus with Saturn, sort of traveling with Saturn, and that can be a little bit like a reality check, a little bit sobering. Whatever we find around the end of the month, probably in through the first week of May, with Venus conjunct Neptune, you have to have that Neptune warning, right? We are not always seeing things clearly when we have these personal planets conjunct Neptune. So the general warning is that if it feels too good to be true, it probably is. So make sure you're not wearing rose-colored glasses. Make sure that you give some time, some separation in that first week of May before you make any decisions Venus-related, right? Okay, so as we move then through the new moon portal that's coming up on the 27th, Venus is going to be walking this tightrope between responsibility, which is sort of the Saturn side, and release, right? It's the structure of Saturn and that surrender of Neptune. She's really helping us to learn here how to balance our vision with integrity and to manifest what we love in ways that are both beautiful but also built to last. Now, this is the first new moon that we've had after eclipse season, and it arrives a little bit like a breath of stillness, which I think we're all thankful for after this very whirlwind type energy. We talked a lot in the April horoscope video about how this is really a Mars month, and Mars is kind of the storyteller, and we're building up to this Mars-Pluto opposition that happened just before this new moon that we're talking about. So it's going to feel a little bit less chaotic. If you had some really emotional highs, maybe some deep transformational thoughts come through as we've moved through April, and we've had all of these planets in Pisces, but also the Pisces and Virgo eclipses, right? This lunation is going to be here to help you kind of ground and recenter. So we're not really starting from scratch. We're kind of starting from integration. Now, if we take a look specifically at the new moon, it happens in Taurus at 7 degrees. So the sun and the moon come together here in this very earthy, very sensual, and manifestation-focused sign, right? That's what Taurus is. Taurus energy invites us to slow down, to trust in the timing of life, and to plant what we want to grow with care. Now, this new moon follows that really intense Mars-Pluto opposition that we had earlier in the week. So that could have revealed some buried tensions for some of us. Maybe it brought up some emotional power struggles for some of you. Could also just been some really deep frustration that came to the surface. If something came up that really kind of shook you, to your foundation a little bit, then this new moon is going to be your opportunity to reset. It's time to rebuild on solid but soul-aligned ground. Now, we also have Uranus at 26 degrees of Taurus. So Uranus is making a trine to the south node and also a sextile to the north node. So those are positive aspects. This can feel like a nudge really from the universe, if you will, a nudge to release the need to try to have things be perfect, right? To believe that the rigidity of your schedule is absolutely necessary, or, to have everything completely planned and figured out before you even get started. This can help you release some of that, right? To acknowledge that that's not necessary and maybe let go of some of that, right? Your breakthrough is going to come when you allow some space, when you trust in the unknown, and when you stay open to the unexpected. Now, what I love most about Venus here is that she's still traveling really close with Saturn in the north node at the time of this new moon, right? So this is kind of like the magic of beauty, but with some structure to it, right? Of dreaming with some sort of boundaries, or of making faith a really practical part of your life, right? Whenever you set intentions around like a new moon like this, it has the potential to last, right? That's what Venus and Saturn coming together, right? If it's aligned with your values, then this is going to be a long-lasting thing. Now, this new moon is also a pause, right? It's a breath. It's an opportunity to return to our senses, and gives us a chance to say, I know that I am worthy of more ease in my life, right? I'm worthy of more pleasure, and I'm worthy of more stability that feels soft and not rigid, because Taurus is all about the five senses, right? It's all of the things all the taste, touch, smell, all of the senses, looking, all of the things that we really love about the physical. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about magic, because I do talk about that sometimes in my astrology videos. And I know sometimes I often link or will share with you a personal ritual. I very much believe in that. Love to practice self-empowerment in that way. But I want to share why I talk about magic alongside astrology, and also sort of, how I see it. So for me, it's not just about manifesting with the moon, or, using candles or crystals in some sort of way. It's about living in rhythm with the earth. That's the reason that we track the moon phases and the cycles, right? Is so that we can understand how to live in harmony with the earth. What's happening here is also happening in the sky. Now, astrology is our sacred calendar, right? You need only look up to know where we are, or what's happening in the world, really anywhere. Like, I always say the stars never lie, right? The energy is going to manifest somewhere. We may not know exactly where, but whatever's happening up there is going to manifest down here. Right? It helps keep us in sync with the energetic seasons. It's the shifting of tides, of light, of intention and evolution. And when we honor the moon, whether it's the new moon or the full moon, we're really honoring both where we are now and where we're going, right? Because each moon has its own theme because it activates a different part of the sky and a different part of us. So when you listen to a horoscope or you track a lunation, it's not just for insight, right? It's for alignment. It's to ask, what energies am I moving with right now? What is being activated in my life at this time? And how can I consciously participate in whatever it is that's unfolding, right? That's why many astrologers will say that this is co-creation, right? We can know what's happening specifically in the sky with the transits right now. We can know how that compares to your natal chart, and we can make some really good guesses about how that's going to play out in your life, right? We don't forecast astrology as a way to fear the future. We tune into astrology so that we can work with the energy in order to shape our path, right? That's why I bring magic into the conversation, because astrology tells us when, the magic helps us to embody the how of what we're bringing to life. So what is magic? So magic to me is all about coming back to your sphere of influence. And I definitely, was a person who took to sitting down in a circle, in my own circle, having a personal ritual, trying to understand myself as best I could, not just from my astrology chart, but, from what's happening in my life, and trying to get a grip on what do I really have the influence to change and what do I need to just accept, right? And that to me, sort of boils down to my sphere of influence. So it's your thoughts, it's your energy, your body, your emotions, right? Magic isn't about perfecting any of those things in any way. It's about refining them. And it's about aligning with them. It's bringing your mind, your body, and your spirit into balance so that that energy that you radiate becomes magnetic, right? That's how you attract, if you will. Again, depends on your personal belief, but we're talking about my beliefs here. So why do I say that magic is all about you? Because I believe it all 100% is about you, right? It's the space that you have power over. That's your sacred center. And when you are rooted there, life just flows differently for you. Being rooted in your center essentially means that whatever's happening around you, in your surroundings, in your environment, on the news, however you want to define that, is not going to knock you out of your center. It's not going to have such an impact on your emotions that it's going to change you or move you out of your center. That's how I see it, right? Instead of chasing or trying to control what it is that's outside of you, you become available to just receive what is aligned with you and who you truly are. And it's a different way of thinking, I believe, right? And I talk about magic because it's one of those things that you just can't know until you practice it, right? It is all about changing your perspective. And, so maybe some people would say then that's not magic. It's not changing your perspective isn't magic, but it is. It really is, right? Until you feel it, you don't know it. It's the same as not being able to know anything until you have truly experienced it, right? So there's a lot of mystery and there's a lot of wonder to being on this planet, right? So much more than we can ever really understand. And of course, to be an expert or perfect is never the goal, right? We're always we're students on this planet, right? We're seekers. We're someone who's still learning. And for a very long time in my life, I felt like I was doing all of the right things, right? I was on the treadmill, if you will, right? Like I'm trying to do all of the things that I think equal success, right? But then you eventually realize that You're trying to serve two masters, right? You have this character that we've created to succeed, and then we have our authentic self, right? Which is sort of waiting underneath all of that. I used to say, especially going into the corporate world, and I'm going to zip all of my 7 personalities up into my dolphin suit, right? Because that's what I wear. I wear the dolphin suit when I'm out in the in the wild, if you will, which is what I would call the city or the corporate world. So it's sort of like that. It's the realization that I really cannot be two people because it's unhealthy for me, right? One of those people had to go, and it was the dolphin suit. You know, I didn't want to be the happy dolphin all the time, right? Because there are other bigger things happening in my life that I wanted to be able to participate in openly, like this, astrology. So anyways, as painful as it was to really let go of an old version of me and that life, doing so really gave me the space and the clarity to rebuild, right? To say, with all of the things that I know now, I can't go back and change the past, but I can start from right here with everything I know, and I can build from this very solid foundation anything, right? Whatever it is, whatever I choose, I can have, right? To shine from this place of who I really am. So now when I talk about magic, right, when I light a candle or I try to speak an intention into a ceremony, right, I'm not really trying to escape reality. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to get out of this world. I'm trying to honor it. I'm trying to work with it. I'm co-creating with life in a way that really helps me to stay centered, present, and open. And honestly, I think that's something that all of us have always known, right? Like if you listen to any spiritual guide or astrologer or scientist who's also into spirituality in some way, they're like, all of these things are things that are already known to us. We're just remembering them. And that's such a beautiful way, I think, to remember it, because when you study any sort of ancient religion or, you know, some astrology or really anything that goes back to civilizations before us, you can really get an understanding of, again, as humans, we're all here really dealing with the same thing, even this many, whatever, centuries, millennia later, right? And it's almost like you can imagine why people would come together, you know, once or twice a month, right? To dance, to eat, to sing, right? Maybe under the moon, maybe not, right? But it's an opportunity for us to come together as humans. And that's what manifestation is, right? It's feeling that joy right from your heart. It's being able to feel it before we see it, right? We can celebrate it before it arrives. It's how our imagination sort of can take our heart right there, and we can radiate from that space. Even if it's not what we're experiencing right now, we can radiate and attract that to us. So when we speak of magic here, it's not about doing something mystical or way out there, right? It's about remembering that this is something that's natural, right? It's something ancient, and it's something that's yours. This body that you have is soft technology, as Greg Braden would call it, right? And you can upgrade it at any time. You get your mind and your heart in coherence, and you can do anything. All right, let's get into the rising sign detail. If you are an Aries rising, this new moon is going to be activating your second house. Now, this is the part of your chart that governs money, self-worth, possessions, and your relationship to security. This is going to be a moment to check in with what it is that you truly value, not just financially, but also personally. So what's your energy worth to you, right? What's worth your time? What, most importantly, do you believe you're worthy of, and what is it that you want out of that, right? This lunation is ruled by Venus, and right now Venus is in Pisces. She is conjunct Saturn in the North Node, which is in your 12th house. So this is going to add a deeply spiritual layer to this. Probably some things happening behind the scenes to sort of flavor the story that's going on in your life. You might be navigating some subtle but also profound shifts around things like self-trust, forgiveness, or maybe letting go of some old unconscious beliefs about what it is that you deserve. And don't be surprised if you feel a need to retreat a little bit, maybe take some time for rest, right? Take some opportunity to reflect on your past patterns as well, since you have this energy in the 12th house, especially those that impacted your ability to receive, right? Receiving, when we ask for something, we also have to be in the frequency of receiving as well, right? That's how things come to us. Your chart ruler is Mars, and Mars is in Leo, so that's 5th house for you. It's forming a square to this new moon. So that's going to add a little bit of pressure, right? You might feel this urge to express yourself boldly. Maybe some of you want to take some sort of creative risk at this time, but that square is really going to suggest that there's a bit of some internal friction happening. There might be some questions around, is this idea that you have, is it secure enough? Have you thought it through enough, right? Is it going to be something that's sustainable? Trust that that friction is really helping you to refine your expression. You don't need to act impulsively, right, in order to prove your worth in any way during this time. In fact, this is a really perfect time to root your creativity in some fire, something that will allow growth over time, right? Something that reflects both your talent, but also your values. Now, with Uranus and Taurus, also your 2nd house, Uranus is making a supportive aspect to the node. So there could be a sudden insight around money or self-esteem in some way. Maybe there is the possibility of a new income opportunity coming in. It could also be some sort of realization about your worth in general that comes to you. Stay open to unexpected gifts, maybe flashes of clarity that could come through as well. And don't be afraid to shake up any sort of outdated beliefs, right? Think those things through. What are you allowed to have, right? Because what you allow yourself to have and believe is what you are going to receive. All right, so for you, this new moon is an opportunity to recommit to yourself, right? Not just as a force of action, but as someone who is worthy of softness, of support, and of abundance. So be thinking about, what is it that you're investing in mentally, emotionally, financially? Where can you create more beauty, pleasure, or maybe sustainability in your life? And are you letting your creativity flow in ways that really nourish you, right? And provide some sort of security, right? Let this be a moment of rooted growth for you. One choice at a time is how you should take this. Good luck to you, Aries. For Taurus Rising, this new moon is in your sign. So it's lands directly in your 1st house of identity, body, and self-expression. This is your personal new year. It is a cosmic reset button for you. And this energy is going to be asking, who are you becoming? What do you want to embody in this next chapter of your life? New moons in the 1st house often will coincide with changes in appearance, some sort of renewed motivation on about your identity, or maybe a desire to redefine your whole role within the world. You might be feeling the need to step back from this old version of yourself and to root into something that's a little more authentic, right? Something that feels like it's a better fit for where you're going, not just where you've been. Now, Venus is your chart ruler, and she's also the ruler of this moon. So in your 11th house, closely conjunct Saturn and the North Node, then you have this like personal growth that's deeply connected to the communities and the friendships that you're building. And there is this sort of karmic tone here. And the people that you're drawn to now might feel a little bit different than the friendships of the past or the people of your past, right? Maybe they're more soulful, maybe they're more aligned, they have a little more purpose, I suppose, in your life, right? You might even be asking at this time, where is it that I belong, right? Who is it that truly sees me for who I am? This new moon is also going to be forming a square to Mars in Leo, which is the 4th house for you. So it's going to bring in some tension around home, family, and emotional foundations. Now, maybe you're ready to change something in your living space, perhaps. Maybe there's an old story from childhood that's sort of rising up at this time, right? And it's kind of challenging your confidence or your sense of stability in some way. Mars in Leo really wants to take action, but that square is kind of reminding you that real confidence is something that's built, right? It's not performed. Let's not forget that Uranus is still moving through Taurus at this time, and it's closely involved with this new moon because it's in the same sign. So you're really still in like mid-transformation here with Uranus in your 1st house. Those changes that you've been undergoing since 2018 are still unfolding, especially if you have personal planets in the last decan of Taurus. Now, this lunation might bring a flash of insight about what next steps are for you. Trust that what feels exciting and grounded right now is what you should be doing. Well, this is a powerful time to set some intentions around your identity, your visibility, your personal goals, your vitality. Give some thought to what version of you are you ready to embody now? What do you want to commit to at this time, whether that's emotionally, physically, or spiritually? And where are you ready to release the old narrative and to step into something that's more aligned with your truth, right? You don't need to rush or to perform. Let this be slow, let it be real, and let it come from the root, right? Then it's going to grow slowly and surely. Good luck to you, Taurus. For Gemini Rising, this new moon lights up your 12th house. This is the quietest and the most hidden part of anyone's chart, the 12th house. So this is the time for deep rest, reflection, and release. It's not about launching something new, right? Not just yet. It's about closing a chapter. It's about tending to your inner world and preparing that soil before the next cycle of growth begins for you. Well, the 12th house is where we meet our subconscious. It's where we confront the things that we've been avoiding. It's also where we reconnect with something that's greater than ourselves, right? Whether that's spirit, intuition, or faith, doesn't matter. This lunation is inviting you to slow down and ask, what am I still carrying that no longer serves who I'm becoming? And what will it feel like to let that thing go in peace, right? Rather than to try to force it. Now, your chart ruler is Mercury, and Mercury is in Aries, moving through your 11th house of friends and long-term vision. You might be thinking a lot about your future at this time, maybe your purpose, your place in community, your goals. But this new moon is really reminding you that before you move forward, there is some value in pulling inward. There's some value in your liminal space, right? And it's not about weakness. It's about a sacred recalibration for yourself. Now, we also have Mars in Leo transiting your 3rd house. So Mars is going to be forming a square to the moon, and this might show up for you as some mental agitation. Could look like scattered thoughts. It could be a desire to really get it all figured out, right? Immediately, if you will. It could be a combination of all of those things. But that square is really suggesting that you may not have all the data yet, right? Your nervous system might be telling you to push forward, hurry up, do this now, but your soul is really asking you to take a rest. Now, with Venus, Saturn, and the North Node all clustered in Pisces in your 10th house, you might be thinking about your public role in some way, or maybe your long-term purpose. There's something that's karmic about your career path, or that you're navigating in some way right now. And what you're being asked to commit to isn't really about success, not in those terms. It's more about integrity, it's about healing, and it's about spiritual growth. So for you, this is a powerful new moon to rest, restore, and to listen to what's happening and what's being whispered from within. You might want to think about what old stories or patterns are you really ready to retire kind of quietly at this time. Just let those things go. What does spiritual rest and realignment really look like for you? How do you come to that place? And are you giving yourself enough space to just simply be, right? Without needing to prove or plan or any of that. Let your soul breathe for a little bit. Your next beginning is going to come soon, but for right now, the work is really energetic, right? It's like trusting in the invisible progress is still progress for you. So remember that. Good luck to you, Gemini. For Cancer Rising. Cancer, this new moon is going to be activating your 11th house. This is the realm of friendships, community, long-term goals, and your larger vision for the future. Now, this is a really beautiful emanation for planting some seeds around who you align with, what causes you're committed to, and how you're showing up in the collective. The 11th house also governs the web of support that you have around you. So it's your allies, it's your audience, it's your soul tribe, if you will. This new moon is going to ask you, who am I building with? And are my current relationships and the communities that I'm surrounded with, are they supporting this version of me that I'm becoming? Now, Venus, Saturn, and the North Node are all traveling together in your 9th house. So this is highlighting a karmic pull toward growth and expansion. Possibly this is through study. Maybe it's through some spiritual deepening or understanding. Could also just be through travel. You may be feeling a strong sense of purpose that's pulling you forward, right? It's even if it's something that's challenging your old beliefs or your comfort zones, you're being asked to commit to a new way of seeing the world, right? And to surround yourself with people who stretch and inspire you. Now, your chart ruler is the moon. This is an extra emotional charge here. But Taurus is going to offer you this sort of steady container to put that in. You're being reminded that the life that you want to create doesn't have to be built alone, right? You got to think long term here. Think community, think support. Now with Mars in Leo in your 2nd house, square to the moon, this is money or self-worth, and might also be like a pressure point. You might feel this urgency to prove your value in some way or to push towards some sort of financial goal. But that square is really suggesting that there's a better question that might be asked during this time. Something more along the lines of, am I aligning my resources with my bigger vision, right? Pushing harder isn't the answer. Aligning on a deeper level is more what you're looking for during this new moon. So this new moon is going to be a doorway into long-term belonging. So if you are willing to redefine what that looks like for yourself, think, who am I aligned with and who no longer really fits in this future vision of mine? What long-term dream am I really ready to recommit to in some way? And where can I invest in some mutual support, some shared resources, some soul-driven purpose in my life? Let this be the beginning of more authentic connections for you, for greater purpose, and relationships that truly nourish your next chapter. That's what you're looking for. Good luck to you, Cancer. For Leo Rising, This new moon is going to be activating your 10th house of career, public life, and long-term goals. And this is a really powerful time to reset your professional direction or to recommit to the kind of legacy that you're building. Taurus here wants you to think about what's sustainable, what's meaningful, and what's aligned with your values. What do you want to be known for? Maybe not this year, but over the long haul, right? What kind of life are you building through your work? This lunation is an invitation that's going to help you to slow down, simplify, and to root into some sort of purpose, right? Not pressure, purpose. And here's where it gets a little bit personal because Mars is currently in your sign, right? In your first house. So Mars is squaring this new moon. You might feel torn between asserting yourself boldly in some way and maybe playing it safe. There could be a tension around whether you should push forward or maybe pull back. But the message here is really, you don't have to prove your power. That's more what you're going for, right? You're already powerful. What you need is to be intentional. So let this friction that shows up point you to where you've outgrown an old role or where you are craving more authenticity in how it is that you lead. If you've been burning the midnight oil, if you will, right? Putting all of your energy into making something happen, then this is going to be your permission to have some pause and to ask if that structure that you're putting all of that energy into is something that actually supports you. Now you also have Venus, Saturn, and the North Node all gathered in Pisces right now, and that's your 8th house. So this is a really transformative part of your chart, the 8th house is. You're being asked to get honest about your energetic, about your emotional, and your financial exchanges here. This could be a time of maybe redefining boundaries in this area of your life. You might be releasing some old debts. Maybe you are choosing to invest your resources more intentionally in some way, right? Literally or emotionally. You're stepping into a new level of maturity, right? Around power, around purpose, and around intimacy, both in your personal life, but also in your career. Now, it's less about performing a role, and it's more about being who you truly are. Now, this new moon is going to offer a chance to quietly restructure your path forward, right? But on your terms. So you want to be thinking about, does my work really reflect who I've become? Am I building a career that actually supports my nervous system? Or maybe where am I ready to lead with authenticity, right? Instead of this obligation to perform a certain role, if you will. Now, we don't want to do any of this with force, of course, right? We're trying to use our focus. It's not about inflating our ego in any way. It's more about the embodiment of this energy, right? Step into this new moon with grace, into this energy with grace, right? Because you're definitely more than ready. And good luck to you, Leo. For Virgo Rising, this new moon is happening in your 9th house of belief, higher learning, travel, and purpose. This is where you dream a little bit bigger, right? It's where you stretch beyond the familiar. It's where we all ask, what am I really here to learn? What kind of life do I want to grow into, right? Not just a life that I manage day to day, but a life that I can be in. Now, the 9th house is all about perspective. And with the new moon in this very grounded sign of Taurus, you're going to be asked to plant some new beliefs, right? Ones that support you with a level of steadiness, of patience, and of self-trust. You don't need to have all the answers figured out. That's not the point. But you do need to believe that you're capable of growing into them. Now, with Mars in Leo, that's moving through your 12th house, making a square to the new moon, there's going to be some sort of inner pressure that's building for you. It could manifest as anxiety. It could be doubt. it could be a pull to retreat or hide in some way. That's really okay. This is the part of your chart that's meant to be quiet. Mars here can really stir the unconscious fears that we have, right? Or maybe a strong desire to sort of push through some sort of confusion. But that square is really reminding you to have a rest, right? Because that it's going to be more productive for you to take rest, right? Trust that your inner knowing is very powerful and you don't need to push through with that level of energy. Now, your chart ruler is Mercury. Mercury is in Aries, sitting in your 8th house of shared resources, intimacy, and emotional depth. Now, you may be having some big internal conversations about things like trust, vulnerability, where you're willing to invest your time and energy going forward. There's transformation that's happening under the surface here. It could be spiritually, it could be relationally, but it's about supporting your desire to live with more meaning. Now, also worthy of note is that Venus, Saturn, and the North Node are all still clustered in Pisces, which is your 7th house. So that's a lot of karmic energy around relationships for you. If you've been deepening a partnership or possibly walking away from one at this time, it's probably not random, right? It's a part of your realignment process. So these themes of commitment, healing, and soulful connections are really central to the long game that you're building here. Now, this new moon is your reminder that stability doesn't mean staying small. You are going to want to be reflecting on what's the bigger story that I want to live. Am I ready to release some outdated beliefs that I have about what it is that's possible for me? Or maybe where can I give myself some permission to explore, to learn, to expand without any sort of pressure to do something with it or make it perfect in some way, right? It means finding solid ground beneath your next leap of faith, right? So plant your vision during this new moon, right? The path may change, but your why is going to carry forward no matter what. So good luck to you. For Libra Rising, this new moon is going to land in your 8th house of transformation, shared resources, intimacy, and energetic exchange. This is one of the more private but also intense parts of our chart. So when the moon is here, it's asking what needs to be released or restructured or possibly reclaimed during this time. Where am I ready to renew trust in some way, whether that's with others or with myself? Now, this is not like surface level work. The 8th house really invites you to look at what's hidden, emotions that you've pushed aside, fears around vulnerability or possibly scarcity, the deeper truths around how you share your energy, your time, and your finances. With this new moon in Taurus, the focus is on creating stability, not through control, but through clarity and conscious choice. Well, Venus is your chart ruler, and she is in Pisces conjunct Saturn and the South Node in your 6th house at this time. So this is kind of significant. You're really being asked to align your daily life, your work, and your wellness practices with what actually supports your soul. And this might be a time of recommitting to routines that will protect your energy. It could be walking away from some habits, maybe some jobs or responsibilities that really silently drain you, but you haven't admitted until now. And this is also a powerful moment for some sort of healing the relationship between your body and your spirit. Mars will be in Leo, moving through your 11th house at this time, and it's going to be squaring the moon. So you may feel pulled between personal transformation and some sort of public connection. And you might be experiencing some tension around your friendships, your goals, your social circles, especially if they are no longer really reflecting your current values, right? If you've made some sort of internal changes lately. Now, if you're questioning who's truly in your corner, then understand that that's part of this recalibration, right? Now, at the same time, we have Uranus in Taurus. He's still in there sort of shaking up your 8th house, which means that that might bring some sudden shifts in terms of intimacy, finances, or energetic boundaries in some way, right? If something falls away or changes quickly during this time, trust that it's making some space for a deeper alignment for you. Now, this new moon invites you to recommit to your healing, your wholeness, and the power of moving through the uncomfortable in order to reclaim your strength. Things that I think you could reflect on, be mindful of during this time is, what am I holding on to out of fear? And what am I ready to release in trust? Where are my current energetic and financial exchanges balanced and empowering to me? And how can I support my emotional well-being through structure, right? Not through suppression. You're not really meant to carry all the things alone, right? Only what's truly yours. And that's sort of what you're learning at this new moon. Good luck to you. For Scorpio Rising, this new moon lights up your 7th house of partnerships, commitments, and one-on-one dynamics. Now, whether you are in a romantic relationship, you are maybe navigating some sort of business partnership, or possibly considering new agreements in terms of connection and partnership, this moon is going to be a fresh restart for you and how it is that you relate. It's asking you, what does safety and stability look like in your relationships now? And what values need to be at the center of those commitments that you have? Now, Taurus is your opposite sign, and it teaches you how to soften, how to receive, and how to build something slowly. And the sun and the moon meeting here are about you being asked to approach partnerships from a space of calm clarity, right? Not from some emotional reactivity or from some unhealed expectations in some way, but calm clarity. But the moon isn't all sweetness. It's squaring Mars in Leo, currently moving through your 10th house of career and public identity. Now, this would suggest that there are some tensions between personal relationships and professional ambitions. You might feel like you're being pulled between tending to someone else's emotional needs and showing up for your own goals. Or you might be questioning how visible or maybe vulnerable you're willing to be in terms of your own public life. Well, Mars is also one of your chart rulers, and him being very active during this lunation, not only with that square to the moon, but still fresh off of this opposition with Pluto in Aquarius, that's still really unfolding in your 4th house of home and family. And that makes this a highly sort of transformative period for your private and your public identity. You might be navigating some deep questions like, what am I building here? And who am I building it with? Now, at the same time, Venus, Saturn, and the North Node are all conjunct in the 5th house for you. So this is about romance, creativity, joy, and children. This is a karmic invitation to get serious about what brings you pleasure and how much of that you're willing to actually commit to. Now, if a love relationship is deepening, then this could be a defining moment for you. If you are maybe realizing that a creative project or maybe some sort of romantic dynamic isn't really aligned with your soul, then this could be that mark of like a gentle but maybe a firm sort of letting go or release of that. And this new moon is going to offer you a chance to rebuild trust within yourself and with those closest to you. Things you could be thinking about and reflecting on during this new moon are what kind of partnerships support my long-term stability and my soul path. Am I leading in my career in a way that really honors my emotional truth? Or where am I ready to create, to love with more maturity, with more integrity, and with more purpose? Now, your relationships are evolving, and the ones that last will be those that are rooted in truth, care, and mutual growth. Good luck to you, Scorpio. For Sagittarius Rising, this new moon is planting seeds in your 6th house of work, routines, wellness, and service. This is going to be a grounded reset that's going to invite you to look closely at how you're living day to day. Are your habits really supporting the version of you that you're becoming? Are your work and your wellness patterns something that are sustainable, or are they subtly draining your energy for the most part? The 6th house is very practical, but this lunation is going to ask you to make it intentional. Now, with Taurus ruling over this part of your chart, you're being called to simplify, to slow down, and to focus on systems that nourish you, not just help you get things done. Now, this is a powerful time to adjust your workflow, to recommit to a wellness practice maybe. You might be shifting your relationship with productivity altogether and how you view that. Your chart ruler is Jupiter. Jupiter's in Gemini, 7th house. It's been there for about a year now. So there's a big spotlight on partnerships and interpersonal growth for you. You're learning so much through others right now, but don't forget that your energy needs structure in order to be fully available to those dynamics. Now, the new moon is going to remind you to tend to your foundation first, right? It's like putting your oxygen mask on before you help others. And we have Mars in Leo, which is the 9th house for you of purpose and expansion. And it's squaring the new moon. You might feel this urge to leap into something new. Maybe you want to start a class. Maybe you want to book a trip. Maybe you're trying to share a message you have in some way. But that square is really suggesting that there may be some tension between this long-term vision that you have and the grounded details of your day-to-day reality. So it's not really a no. It's make sure you have the right infrastructure to be able to support this adventure that you want to go on. All right. Meanwhile, you've got Saturn, Venus, and the North Node all in Pisces, clustered in your 4th house of home, roots, and emotional security. Now, this is a deeply karmic time for redefining what supports you on a soul level. You may be tending to family issues. You could be revisiting your sense of home altogether, or you might be just quietly choosing to sort of stabilize your inner life before you go expanding further out into the world. Now, this new moon is an invitation to return to the basics for you, not to restrict yourself, but to fortify your foundation in some way. So reflection topics for you might be what rhythms, routines, or habits need to be reshaped for my next chapter. Am I honoring my body and my nervous system as much as I am my big vision? Maybe it's what does support look like for me? And that could be emotionally, physically, or spiritually. Because what we're trying to focus on for this new moon is that the more stable your inner life is, the freer your outer life becomes. Good luck to you, Sagittarius. For Capricorn Rising, this new moon is lighting up your 5th house of pleasure, creativity, romance, and self-expression. Well, this is a chance to reconnect with what makes you feel alive, not out of duty, but out of your desire. This part of your chart is where your inner child, your artist, and that lover all live. It's the cosmos really asking, what do you want to create and what makes you feel like you again? Now, as a Capricorn rising, you are often focused on long-term goals, practical outcomes, but this moon is going to invite you to slow down and to enjoy the process. Taurus is about beauty, it's about embodiment and sustainability. So whatever you're pouring energy into, whether it's a creative project, a romantic relationship, your own self-worth maybe, it needs to feel solid, nourishing, and true. Now, your chart ruler is Saturn, still in Pisces, will be conjunct Venus and the North Node. That's your third house of communication, learning, and mindset. Now, this is an incredibly supportive transit for building confidence in your voice, your ideas, and the way that you connect with others. You may be learning a new skill. You might be sharing your story in a new way, or maybe just quietly rebuilding trust in terms of your ability to speak your truth. But there is a little bit of heat happening in the background because Mars is in Leo, moving through your 8th house, and will be making a square to this new moon. So this is going to bring more intense, private energy into play. You might be feeling some tension around intimacy, topics of money, or maybe energetic boundaries. There could be a desire to maybe hold on really tightly, whether that's to a relationship, an outcome that you envision in some way, or some sort of creative risk. But that square is really reminding you that true creative power doesn't come from control, right? It comes from presence and trust. And then, of course, we can't forget about Uranus, which is still moving through your 5th house. And he's continuing to sort of shake up that how you express yourself, right? What it is that joy means to you and how you relate to both love and play. Now, if something unconventional is really calling to you, maybe artistically, romantically, or personally, then this is going to be your cue to go ahead and follow that, right? Slowly, but with intention. Now, this new moon is going to be your invitation to create a new kind of confidence, one that's really rooted in your authenticity, not some sort of performance. Reflection topics for you for this new moon could be, where have I stopped myself from feeling joy or from being seen? What creative project or maybe personal passion am I ready to return to or possibly even just begin? And how can I bring more beauty, intimacy, and intention into how I express myself? Now, you are ready to build something beautiful and from the inside out, right? Let pleasure and purpose hold hands and lead the way for you. Good luck to you, Capricorn. For Aquarius Rising, this new moon in Taurus will be activating your 4th house of home, family, and emotional roots. This is a quiet but powerful lunation for you. It's a time to come back to your foundation and to ask, what do I need to feel safe, supported, or grounded? And this is going to be your chance to reset your relationship with home, whether that is a physical space, whether that is your family connections, or your inner sense of belonging. New moons in this part of the chart often coincide with real changes in your living situation, family dynamics, or internal sense of stability. Now, but Taurus moves really slowly, so this is more about planting the seeds than it is rushing the renovation in any way. And what kind of environment are you building around and within you? Your chart ruler is Uranus, also in Taurus. Is continuing its long journey through that 4th house, and it's active at this lunation, making a sextile to the North Node and a trine to the South Node. So this is going to bring probably some unexpected insight, maybe some sort of breakthrough that can really help you to move away from this need for perfectionism, the need toward a more soul-aligned version in terms of stability for yourself. Maybe you're learning that safety isn't about control, right? It's more about trust. Now, at this time, Mars is going to be in Leo, moving through your 7th house of relationships, and will be squaring the moon. There may be some tension, maybe some urgency within your closest partnerships, and those could be romantic, business, or even just family relationships. Now, if someone close to you is pushing you for answers or for some sort of change, maybe if you are wrestling with how much space you need to give versus how much you need, then this square could really sort of stir up those dynamics for you, right? The key is to act with integrity and do your best not to react. Now, Venus, Saturn, and the North Node are all in Pisces, so they're clustered together in your 2nd house of values, finances, and self-worth. This is going to bring a deeply karmic undertone to how you're thinking about your resources and what truly matters to you. And this is a time for wise but grounded decisions, right? Especially around shared living spaces, money, or any sort of emotional investments. Now, this new moon is a beautiful invitation to slow down and come home to yourself and begin building the inner and the outer sanctuary that you deserve. Topics that you could be reflecting on during this new moon are: what kind of home or support system do I truly want to create? Am I grounded in my own values, or am I still adapting to someone else's expectations? Do your best to let this new moon be nourishing for you. Set your intentions with purpose and let it be yours. Best of luck to you, Aquarius. For Pisces Rising, this new moon in Taurus will be activating your 3rd house of communication, mindset, learning, and your local environment. It's an invitation to reset how you think, how you speak, and how you engage with the world around you. Well, this is the part of your chart that governs your inner dialogue as much as your outer voice. And Taurus wants to know, are your thoughts grounding you, or are they stirring some unnecessary tension? And this is a beautiful lunation to plant intentions around new patterns of thinking, new learning paths, writing projects, or even healing some sibling or some neighbor relationships. It's also an opportunity to reframe how you share your truth, not through some sort of urgency, but through a need for clarity, calm, and confidence. Your chart rulers, which are Jupiter and Neptune, are both in prominent placements during this new moon. Jupiter's in Gemini, which is your 4th house. So it's expanding, has been, the way that you think about home and emotional safety. And Neptune is freshly in Aries, right? So it's beginning this long cycle through your 2nd house of self-worth and values. And it's asking you to reconnect with your sense of spiritual and creative worth. You're in a new phase of becoming at this time, and it starts with what you believe about yourself. Now, at the same time, Venus, Saturn, and North Node are all conjunct in your 1st house, so this is your identity, it's your body, it's your path. And this is huge. So you're really being asked to reshape from a soul level. You're being asked to recommit to who you really are, not the version of who others expect, but the version that feels very spiritually whole for you. There might be some karmic lessons here around boundaries, around devotion, around emotional maturity, but there's also so much wisdom that's coming through as well. Now, meanwhile, we have Mars in Leo, and that is square to the moon at this time. So Mars is in your 6th house. This would suggest that there's some tension between your thoughts and your daily reality. Or maybe your schedule is a little bit overwhelming. Maybe you are dealing with stress related to either a health or a work situation. Maybe you're being overworked in some way. This square is really reminding you to restructure your days with more intention, right? And to protect your peace, right? Because if you don't do that, nobody else will. Now, this new moon is going to give you a chance to reset your mental landscape and to reclaim your voice. things that you could reflect on during this time are, what thoughts, habits, or messages am I ready to release? How can I speak to myself and to others with more compassion and consistency? And what conversations or maybe writing projects are ready to be initiated from a more rooted place within myself? Oh, let your words flow from clarity right out of you, okay? Let your thoughts be a home that you enjoy living in. Best of luck to you, Pisces.